And now for our feature presentation.
You're listening to the JB and Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
He's going to go into the end zone.
Puts it up. Yes! There goes Davis.
Oh, my God.
Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
American Football is finally the one. American Football has won the Triple Crown.
And Barnes hits one high. It's a deep. It is out of here. High fly ball into right field. She is gone.
Unbelievable! A home run for Gibson, and the Tigers have won the game 5-4. I don't believe what I just saw.
Here are your hosts, Jamie Bradford and Darren Goldwater.
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends at Stokes Volkswagen. Check them out, stokesvw.com. Darren Goldwater to my left. I am Jamie. We're here until 2 p.m. on this final day of August. Welcome back, football season. A game played on Saturday night. More to come this week, and then into the ACC we go. Saturday, September the 12th is really when it will all get rocking and rolling in the Atlantic Coast Conference. You can watch this every day on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Periscope. You can listen on the Podbean app. It's all free, jbandgoldwatershow.com, across all social media platforms, at JB and Goldwater. I am at Sports Radio JB, and, of course, he is at Darren Goldwater, and he is back from the West Coast, bruh. Cutting it a little close. You did get hung up in Atlanta last night, but you made it back this morning. So first and foremost, before we get any further, we do have a big show planned today with Mike Uva from Watch Fox in Columbia and with Wes Mitchell from Gamecock Central and a bunch more, including a blockbuster baseball trade that was just announced. But I do want to ask you on a personal level, how was it meeting your nephew for the very first time?
It was pretty cool. It was very cool. So Royce Isaac is 11 weeks old. I guess he's pushing 12 weeks old now, and apparently now you switch to months instead of weeks or whatever. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I mean, that's my first nephew, or at least my sister's first kid, so it feels like it's a little bit closer. So it was great. It really was. It was cool to see my sister being a mom. And the weird thing is how similar Royce looks at the same age as Grayson when she was that age.
Oh, cool.
I mean, they're almost identical, but that was fun. And then, travel was travel yesterday, get to Atlanta, and the skies opened up. Luckily, I'm an experienced traveler, so I was able to figure out what to do. And had I waited like probably most people, then I wouldn't have made it back for the show, and we wouldn't have had a show. But we stayed in Atlanta last night, got on the air 1 minute late today, but everything's loaded in and ready to go.
Good. Probably not a lot of rain out in California, huh?
No. You got that marine layer that burns off after a while. It was beautiful out there. It was like high 70s, and then at night it's in the 60s, and you can sit outside.
Yeah.
Really, really nice.
Yeah, we can't do that quite yet here.
No.
But soon, the 2020 fall, the fall/winter Farmer's Almanac is out, and apparently it's going to be below average temps in our neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll believe that when I see it.
So that's what they say. They've been doing this a long time. I put a lot of stock in the Farmer's Almanac.
Absolutely. I mean,
those guys. And
meteorologists, they go off science, but the almanac, they've been guessing for hundreds of years.
And they're pretty sharp.
So yeah, let's go with the guessing.
Yeah. Well, I'm okay with the cooler than average temps. To be honest with you, I'm ready for fall. We're ready for football, and we're going to talk a lot of that today. Some Big Ten news, maybe. We'll see. You've probably heard about it. We got a bunch of other football news to get out, some NFL news to get out as well. I mentioned Wes Mitchell. He'll recap the scrimmage for South Carolina at 1 o'clock today. A lot coming out of that. And at 12:30, a report from Mike Yuva with Watch Fox up in Columbia about Dawn Staley. Could she maybe be willing to listen to the NBA and, in particular, the Philadelphia 76ers? He put it out last night, and so he's going to join us at 12:30 today to dive a little bit deeper into this potential news. It's not news right now, but it is potential news. So how about Dabo? There are some folks out there who have circled his name to become maybe the next college coach to jump to the NFL. We'll tell you where and why here in just a little while as well. Obviously, major golf yesterday. Holy moly, 109 feet worth of putts to just recap or to cap off an exceptional weekend at the BMW. So we'll get to that. The passing of John Thompson, certainly going to get to that. We do have some video accompanying both of those, golf and the passing of Georgetown's John Thompson. But Darren, let's start off with what's going on in the big leagues here, because at 4 o'clock today, just a shade under 4 hours from now, the trade deadline will hit. And if you don't make one between now and then, you won't make one. But right now, former Citadel righty Mike Clevenger is on the move. Speaking of the West Coast, that's where he's going. He's been added to the San Diego Padres, who all of a sudden are one of the hot commodities in Major League Baseball. Very similar to the Chicago White Sox, a couple of teams who you might say have kind of come out of nowhere, but the Padres, they can certainly swing it. Now they're trying to add an arm, and they've done it with Mike Clevenger leaving Cleveland and heading west. Cleveland got a 6-player return for the former Bulldog. Righty Cal Quantrill, left fielder Josh Naylor, catcher Austin Hedges, shortstop Gabriel Arias, left-handed pitcher Joey Cantillo, shortstop Owen Miller, all headed to Cleveland for Mike Clevenger. So that's a big deal. Going to keep our eyes on the Braves. You know, the thing with the trade deadline, it's weird, the timing of it, number one, but number two, there's a lot of teams who are already really in the red. They just don't have a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So going out and buying guys, now if they can make a deal somewhere where financially it's not going to affect them too much, you might see that. But, you know, a lot of the big names, it would affect your bottom line. So we're probably not this might be this is going to be a very interesting deadline. It could be a bunch of fireworks down the stretch here with some really tricky backdoor moves. Mm-hmm. Could be nothing.
Padres are all in. They had a huge deal yesterday also. They gave up their top prospect, Taylor Trammell, in exchange for Austin Nola, the catcher from Seattle. It was another big deal. I think 7 or 8 guys were involved in that. So the Padres are making a legitimate run out there in the West. And remember, the expanded playoffs. So 16 of these teams are getting in. The Padres look pretty good to get in right now, so they're stocking up for the last 30 games and then the postseason. But Clevenger brings a lot. Remember, Clevenger also got into a little bit of trouble with Cleveland because he was out with Plesac. Both of them then had to quarantine after breaking the rules of, I guess the bubble rules of the Indians when they were out on the road. Clevenger apologized. They gave him one more start pretty much to showcase his talents again and then traded him away. Looks like so he's heading out to San Diego.
Yeah. It's incredible. We'll see what moves are made. How about the Tampa Bay Rays? They're 3.5 games up on the Yankees in the East. The Indians and the White Sox are now tied for the lead in the Central, which makes that deal even more interesting for Cleveland because they're tied for the lead in the Central, 21-13 on the season. But Clevenger's moving on, and the White Sox have been roaring, 8-2 in their last 10, starting to pitch better. We know that they can score. So they're right there. Oakland is 10 games up or 10 games above 500 out west there, and they're 2.5 up on the Houston Astros. The Braves still have a 3-game lead. They won last night. They're at 19-14. The Cubs at 20-14 in the Central have cooled off a bit over the last 10 games. But and they got a commanding lead right now. I'd say 3.5 games is fairly commanding in the Central based on how everybody's been playing compared to Chicago. Chicago we know is good, and they'll get rolling again. And then out west, it's the Dodgers, but just 5 games back, it's the Padres. And right now, they're not a team that you want to run into.
No, and it was interesting because there was a pretty strong rumor that Clevenger to the White Sox could happen, which you never see. You never see 2 divisional rivals trade guys, but it would have been mutually beneficial, and they're both looking like they're strong contenders right now to be in the postseason. I don't know if it was just a better deal to go out to San Diego or if it was just hesitation on dealing Clevenger within the division.
Right.
But, I've liked San Diego for a long time. You mentioned the Rays. I've been on them since before this little sprint of a season started. So it's fun.
Yeah, got a bunch of young guys for Clevenger. We'll keep our eyes on some big arms. Could Trevor Bauer be moved? I mean, he's one of the biggest arms out there. I mean, there's a lot going on in baseball, so we'll try to track it over the next couple of hours, and we'll of course recap it tomorrow. Corey McCartney coming up later this week on our program. All right, 321-8893. That's the text line. That's also the phone line. You can call us or text us 321-8893-843 321-8893. The sad news, of course, of the day in the sports world is the passing of John Thompson. John, of course, the first black coach to win a national championship in Division I college basketball. He was at Georgetown forever, won 596 games as the head coach there, had one losing season. It was his first in 1972 to 1973, only 12-14 that year. Of course, they were an independent, didn't join the Big East until 1979, and then they, of course, would turn around and win the national championship just a few years later, 1983, 1984, that year where they went 34-3. Here's a guy who is incredibly respected by everybody who's ever coached the game of basketball. He has made unbelievable impacts, not just on the sport, but on the guys who played for him. I love the story about Alonzo Mourning and that group when they played for him. They were associated with a drug dealer in town. This guy, I forget his name, but he was a drug dealer, and John Thompson got one of his people in the office to track down this guy. Now, it didn't mean that they were dealing drugs. They weren't. There's no proof ever that his players were dealing drugs.
Just involved with a guy.
Yeah, they had been befriended by this guy, and he was bad news. And impressionable college kids, somebody with a bunch of money, big Hoyas fan. I don't know if he was a booster, but I know he was a big supporter of the program. And but it's a great story because John Thompson found him, called him into his office. Apparently, it was really cool. And John Thompson's 6'10", and he stood up and towered over him and went on a profane-laced rant about get away from my players or bad things are coming your way. And he never, ever stepped foot around the Georgetown basketball program again. But we do have a video of Allen Iverson accepting his Naismith his Naismith Hall of Fame, his acceptance speech after he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. If you don't know the backstory to Allen Iverson, which a lot of people I think maybe forget some of this, Allen Iverson in high school was maybe the most recruited football player in the country.
He was legit. He was a quarterback.
Yeah. He wanted to play football, but he also, of course, wanted to play basketball, and he had offers from everybody in the country for football. He did have plenty of offers, of course, for basketball. But he got into a fight at a bowling alley his senior year, and it was basically a white versus black fight. There's a group of white guys and a group of black guys, and I think there was 3 members of his group who were sentenced, inciting riots and a bunch of other charges. They had every right to be charged based on what he threw a chair, hit a girl in the face. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff going on here, but there's still some question to this day as to, okay, there were some other guys that probably should have been charged in this too, and they weren't.
So I was growing up in D.C. in this time. So I moved to D.C., or my family did, when I was 2, a little bit more than 2, in 1982, and then I was in the D.C. area until the late 90s when I left for college. So this is right when I was growing up in the area, and I was never a Maryland fan, so I was always following the Hoyas. The impact of John Thompson is immeasurable. The legacy that he's left is one that will continue to be passed down for decades. I saw a great thought that maybe on the opening day of basketball season, every coach in the country has just a white towel draped over their shoulder like he used to have.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that'd be neat.
Yeah, and something to remember about Allen Iverson, and we'll get to what AI had to say about John Thompson Jr. here in a second. That fight is one part of it. there was a lot of baggage that came along with Allen Iverson.
Oh, absolutely.
There was a lot of bad news that circled around Allen
question.
Iverson. And even when he was in Georgetown, there were always rumors that were swirling. And if it wasn't for John Thompson, there's no way you could convince me that Allen Iverson would have survived through Georgetown to then become a Hall of Fame basketball player.
Yeah, and the thing about that fight with Allen Iverson, again, I think he was 17. I don't even know that he was 18 yet, Darren, because he did receive 3 5-year sentences for 3 different felonies that he had committed. But the thing about that was, as much as he was being recruited by so many folks at the time, his GPA was reportedly like 1.8. Mm-hmm. So I don't even know that he would have qualified to get into school, and he did actually have to go through a program to be able to do this. Now, that, of course, that 15-year sentence was greatly reduced. What he spent about 4 months in prison or something like that.
I'm not sure the exact number.
It wasn't a bunch of time. But what happened was Allen Iverson's mom reached out to John Thompson while he was in school, while he was in jail, and said, I need you to talk to my son. My son needs to play basketball for you. He needs you in his life.
Yeah.
So this clip we're going to show you here is Allen Iverson from quite a few years back, where he was inducted into the Naismith Hall of Fame. This was his acceptance speech, and this was his emotion in describing the impact that John Thompson had on his life.
I want to thank Coach Thompson. Coach Thompson for saving my life. For giving me the opportunity. I was recruited by every school in the country for football and basketball, and an incident happened in high school, and all that was taken away. No other teams, no other schools were recruiting me anymore. My mom went to Georgetown and begged him to give me a chance, and he did. And that's crazy to think that you're the best football player in the world, which I did, and to be sitting up here as a Hall of Famer in basketball. You tell me God ain't good.
Yeah, there you go. And want to, of course, give credit to the Basketball Hall of Fame for that video that we've used here on a Monday afternoon. But we'd have never had the answer without John Thompson.
Yeah.
John Thompson, and there's some – I've heard Nick Saban before. There are some roads that you can't go down with athletes. Some guys do things that, unfortunately, you can't associate that with whatever program you have. Football, baseball, basketball, sometimes decisions that they make aren't just bad decisions. It just kind of reflects much more of who they are. And there are just some things you just can't – I mean, if somebody kills somebody, you can't just say, well, look, they'll get over it and then they can come play basketball. No, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
I'm sorry. It's not the way it works. But guys also make mistakes, and there are coaches out there, and I mentioned Saban, who went on a rant about this a couple of years ago, like, look, there are guys who I've coached who've made mistakes, but it didn't necessarily reflect their character. It reflected a time in their lives where they just made really bad mistakes. And what do? Do we throw them out on the street where they're going to do it again? They're going to probably end up in the system? Or, do we try to help them improve? And John Thompson was a let me try to help them improve type guy if you were a kid who was willing to do that for yourself and you deserved a second chance. And Allen Iverson's a great example of that.
Yep. I'll read what Mike Wilbon tweeted. Not many more respected, particularly African-American sports journalists out there than Mike Wilbon, who, in his words, said, Big John was as impactful on my life as an adult man as anyone other than my dad and a couple of uncles. And earlier this morning said, and I'll quote here, not just the sports world, but the whole world has lost one of the truly remarkable, complex, brilliant, committed, courageous, fascinating men ever. The impact he had on so many lives cannot be overstated and likely not adequately appreciated or even fully understood. I mean, every word in that tweet is meaningful right there. I mean, that's how you write, and that came from, obviously, a great writer in Mike Wilbon. And it's hard to say it much better than Wilbon put it right there, because that's what Thompson was. He meant a lot to a lot of people. He is the reason a lot of people became successful and didn't end up on the wrong path, and was not just a basketball coach, but from a race relations standpoint was hugely instrumental in the sports world as well. I mean, sports world lost a giant, literally and figuratively, in John Thompson.
Absolutely. If you are a beer drinker, maybe pour one out for John Thompson today while you stop by and see our friends at Dog and Duck.
There you go. I'll probably do that after the long day that I had today, so maybe after the show I'll be at Bell Hall. But Park West, also on Clements Ferry, if you want to drink. And, yeah, I don't know what his favorite beverage was, but
yeah,
he probably had one or two every now and then.
I'll have yours in honor of JT.
That's right.
Let me share this story real quick. I was not aware of this.
Okay.
So I was just looking, trying to do some homework this morning, and I came across this, and I did find the video, but I didn't pass it along to you because it's a pretty expansive story as told by John Thompson. But I don't know if you're aware of that. This is remarkable. American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon, of course, on September 11th, 2001. John Thompson was supposed to be on that flight.
Didn't know.
He was supposed to be on that flight. I've got this in my notes here, so bear with me. His flight was canceled. And remember, of course, as part of 9/11, all 64 people on that flight were killed. And, of course, it was taken over and crashed deliberately, by those who were on board, fighting the terrorists who were trying to take over the plane, as they didn't want it to get to the White House. But what happened was the Jim Rome show, the booker for Jim Rome was trying to get John Thompson to California. And this is back when Jim Rome would sit down and do these TV specials with guests.
Yes.
And they fought back and forth about the timing of this because John Thompson had a trip planned to Vegas as well. And basically the logistics of it, he was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going out of my way, going over there. Then I want to be in Vegas on this day. I think he was out there to look at some prospects or something like that. And so he did not want, logistically speaking, to run around in circles just to go back to Vegas. So he said, no. Well, finally he talked to this booker, he talked to him himself instead of his people, discussing this with Jim Rome's show booker. And he worked out a better schedule. And so because he got booked on the Jim Rome show, he canceled his flight to fly back to D.C.
Wow.
Which would have been he got a phone call after this all happened. They said, look at your itinerary, and he would have made it onto that flight specifically that day, and he would have been a part of that crash.
That's amazing.
Never knew that story, and I found it this morning. And so just to make sure that there was validity to this, I went and pulled the audio from Jim, and you could Google it. I went and pulled the audio, and he told the story on the show with Jim Rome not too long ago, actually.
Wow.
So just wow, what a tidbit of information there. But R.I.P. John Thompson, of course, who has passed away now at the age of 78 years old. All right, about 5 minutes left, and we'll hit a timeout and head to Columbia, and that's where we'll find our friend Mike Yuva. This is his first appearance on our program, but he is, I think, have you talked to him? He's going to do Zoom. So
he will be with us on Zoom.
He's not scared of the TV thing.
He better not be.
Yeah.
It is the job.
That's kind of what he does. Before we get there, though, a remarkable ending to the BMW this weekend. A remarkable ending with Dustin Johnson, John Rahm, and so we have pulled the video from NBC this weekend. This is, of course, courtesy of them. If you, for some reason, missed both putts, here it is back-to-back with Dustin Johnson sinking a 43-footer to send it into overtime, if you'd like to call it that in golf. But then John Rahm answering with a 66-footer in what, to this point, I think has probably been the putt of his life. Remarkable golf.
You just got to be totally committed to this.
It's about 2 feet downhill. He gave it a great run. He gave it a great run!
How about that?
Wow! Dustin Johnson, are you kidding me? Playoff time with Rahm. Do you believe that? Can't help but think of the long one he made in San Diego to pick up his first PGA Tour win in style. Here it comes. Here it
Watch out!
comes.
Wow!
Incredible.
Just unbelievable.
Could you imagine what the roars would have been if everybody was there with both of those putts?
You even got some of the roars, right? You got some for the, however many people were around there for whatever reason. On a personal level, we planned this perfectly until we just got absolutely screwed over in Atlanta. Our flight from LA took off at 2:00 Eastern time. So 1 hour into our 4-hour flight. There's 3 hours left now, math guys. I had live television of the BMW Championship for my cross-country flight, and I'm just sitting back chilling, just drinking beer, watching golf on the plane.
Oh, that's
like I was in my living room, except the TV was like that big.
Dude, I could not imagine anything else I'd rather do on a flight than watch golf.
No, it was perfect.
I mean, that is perfect.
Perfect. And I'm in the comfort section, so I'm getting free beer while I'm just kicking back and watching golf. That's what I would have been doing on my couch.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
That's sensational. The one-hole playoff, of course, came back to 18, and that's where Rahm sunk it. That birdie would give him the win. It did. $1.7 million later, Jon Rahm is now ranked second in the world. This is also the first time in the FedEx Cup playoffs history that the top 3 players in the FedEx Cup standings entering the Tour Championship on Thursday are also the top 3 players in the official World Golf rankings. Number 1, though, it is Dustin Johnson. Jon Rahm right there at number 2, and at number 3, Justin Thomas. So the fireworks are available for the lighting if we would like them to be, and hopefully they will be in Atlanta at East Lake starting Thursday in this week's Tour Championship. So cannot wait to have a conversation about this with Scott Glaze coming up on Thursday here on our program. But what a remarkable finish. I mean, that was the finish of the year. In golf, no doubt about it.
And remember, just a couple of weeks ago, the Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa playoff, where there were putts similar to those. There was a 50-footer that Thomas dropped, and then Morikawa comes back on the playoff and sinks another ludicrous putt.
Yeah.
I mean, golf has been fantastic this year since the return.
It's been really good. Only 5 players here in the BMW under par, only 7 even or under. Everybody else over par. Of course, that does include Tiger, who just didn't have a good week once again. But, look, most of them didn't. What was really interesting was how the course played. The course played the best yesterday. It played its worst on the first day and then the second day. So, an unbelievable final round for Jon Rahm. 64 for a total of 276 and 1,500 FedEx points. Again, $1.7 million in his bank account because of that. Dustin Johnson also, though, earned over $1 million as well.
And that's the 3rd time since the restart that Scott Glaze has picked the winner, I believe.
Is it? It is the 3rd.
I believe it's the 3rd. It might be the 2nd.
Oh, I know it's the 3rd. It's at least the 3rd. I was thinking it might
maybe
have been
even
more
the
than
4th. So he nailed that part. Now, I was leading him down the road before
he was way off on the under.
Yeah, because I was leading him down the road of saying it looks like the course is tough right now because we had him on as play was starting on Thursday. And no. I think they'll get this course. But he got the winner again, and
yeah.
I mean, if you're a Vegas guy, that's all that matters.
It was a fantastic finish in golf. So no football yet to start today. We did have football that started actually on Saturday night, Austin Peay and Central Arkansas. We'll circle back to it. We'll tell you what's ahead this weekend as well. Full slate of games on ESPN coming up on Saturday. But coming up next on our program, we'll take the quick drive right up I-26, and that's where Mike Yuva is standing by with Watch Fox. He is set to join us. A report that he released last night that Dawn Staley would be willing to listen to maybe an offer from the Philadelphia 76ers. It's only a few days after she said, no, I'm just fine right here. Why is that report out now from Mike? He'll explain that and much more here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. Every 2020 Tiguan S, our best-selling third-row SUV, is $3,500 off plus 0 APR for 72 months. But wait, there's more. With $299 down, you can own the Tiguan S for just $299 per month for 72 months at 0% APR. Not just one at this price, over 22 Tiguans to choose from. All $3,500 off plus 0 APR for 72 months and $299 down, $299 per month. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, we are so desperate for used cars that we'll take any trade in any condition, running or not. We need your trade more, so we'll flat out give you more. And don't worry about your credit. Our lenders are more lenient than ever. So if you're interested in saving $3,500 on a new Volkswagen Tiguan S and owning it for $299 down, $299 per month, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks. Not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
Hey guys, it's Darren, just here to tell you about our good friends over at Dog and Duck. They've got 3 locations, one in Bell Hall, one in Park West, and one, the new one, out on Clements Ferry. I can tell you from personal experience, it's the only restaurant in town that I've been to since this whole place has reopened. Everything is socially distant, very comfortable, and to top it all off, great selection of rotating craft beers, food specials every day, family meals. If you don't want to go in, you can order it and have some curbside pickup as well. Dog and Duck, 3 locations, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
Hey everybody, what's going on? This is singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, but whenever I want to keep up with the South Carolina Gamecocks or even the Clemson Tigers, I can still tune in to JB and Goldwater because they are always live, loud, and online.
And I sing hallelujah, I do believe it's happening.
All right, 12:33. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends at Stokes Volkswagen. Darren Goldwater is to my left. Every day you can watch us. We appreciate those that do. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope. Listen on the Podbean app. It's all free. JBandGoldwaterShow.com to find everything about us and a bag of potato chips. All right, right between Darren and I is the friendly face of Mike Uva with Watch Fox up in Columbia. It's the first time we've had him on our program. That's my fault. So there's another person that I owe an apology to around here. But he has been kind enough to join us today from just up I-26. Hey, man, how are you?
Good. Thanks, you guys, for having me on.
Well, I appreciate it. We know you're a big media guy and stuff. I thought you might be scared of the Zoom thing, but then I forgot you were on TV every night. So.
I'll tell you what, the one thing I regret about Zoom is not knowing what the hell it was before this whole pandemic, because can you imagine the money just putting stock into that before all this took off? Because I think we'd all be better off. I mean, we'll just put it that way.
It's being used by everybody. I mean, sports, business, it doesn't matter. Everyone is doing Zoom now. Schools.
Nick Saban. I mean, Saban hates technology. If Saban's on it, you know you screwed up on not putting money in when the stock was low. So we all screwed up. We'd be eating Hall steaks every night.
Don't
just tempt me now.
Thanks a lot, dude. I mean, I can only imagine how much easier. I mean, not that your job is easy, but how much easier and more accommodating it has made what you do every day.
Oh, it's so much easier. I mean, there's a story with Justin Rowe a couple months back when he beat cancer and he came out. And he's on the complete opposite side of the country. So to be able to do an interview with him via Zoom and to make things easier, because, I mean, we looked like a bunch of jabronis putting cameras over our shoulder, aiming it at the computer screen, and everything's crooked. The colors all screwed up. Now you just press one button, and it's just beautiful. And I can tell you from being at a mid-market level, you don't have the luxury of maybe what the SEC has, SEC Network, that is, some of these bigger stations. So it's nice to be able to have something like this. Just the production value goes up and you don't have to set up that goofy camera over your shoulder.
I had somebody last week, Mike, just to throw this at you before we get into Dawn and a couple of other things here. I had somebody last week who really respects you a lot in the work that you do, who said he's going to be the next Matt Berry.
Ooh.
I said, "Oh, really?" So but I started thinking about it and I said, okay, well, he's got the hair. So, yeah, that's good. That's good. So if you're the next Matt Barry, don't forget about all of us little guys, okay?
Yeah, I think the only thing Matt Barry and I might have in common outside of here is that we just really enjoy Village Idiot Pizza. So to be mentioned right now with him is obviously an honor, just because I know the work that Matt was able to do when he was here in Columbia, and being able to meet him through Village Idiot owner Brian Glenn has been tremendous. He's a great guy. Every time he comes back for the Masters, he always makes sure he shoots on by Columbia, and it just speaks volumes of what this city and what this state means to him during his time here.
It means a lot to Dawn, too, Mike. And last night you did put up an article at watch.com, WACH, about Dawn. Of course, happy as the head basketball coach at South Carolina. She's said this for years. We know she is. I've talked to Dawn. Dawn loves it in Columbia, and she has built the powerhouse. Darren has said this multiple times. UConn is always going to be the team that you'll always mention UConn, no question. But now you have to go through South Carolina to win a national championship in women's basketball. Had the season not been cut short here in 2020, I think they would have won another one. I mean, they were really good, and they're probably going to be the favorite to win it this year. But according to your report here, she would at least be willing to listen if her hometown Philadelphia 76ers were to show interest in her as their next coach. What leads you to believe this? I know there's reports out there that Tyronn Lue is the guy that they might actually really be chasing here. But why Dawn Staley? I think just recently she said no, she really likes Columbia and she would have to pass.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big thing. And Marcus Hayes came out with that report last week for the Philadelphia Inquirer, longtime columnist in Philadelphia. And I was on a bachelor trip. I know we're going to talk about Colin Taylor's bachelor trip. So this story came out on Wednesday, so the 26th. Yeah. And I didn't see it until yesterday. My news director reached out to me and said, hey, do you know anything about this? So I just made a couple calls, and instantly, I got the word that it would be something that she would at least put interest in terms of just being able to talk. Now, I think that's important because, as you mentioned, you read that first sentence. You read the lead of that story. Yeah. Some people don't click on the story. They just instantly see the title, and I try not to make it clickbaity because, I mean, that's just not my angle. But the point being is, doesn't mean she's ready to leave Columbia. She's happy here. She loves USC. From everything that I've been told, and like you said, from everything you've been told, she loves working at South Carolina. And who can blame her with the recruiting class that she's been able to have the last couple of years and in the future? And obviously that team that's coming back from last year who, should have had a chance to be able to win a national championship. I think the big thing that people need to understand is, from a historical standpoint, what this would mean, not just for Dawn Staley, but for women coaches and black women coaches at that too, because there's only been one female to ever have an interview for a head coaching job in the NBA. That was a couple of years back with Becca Hammond. It's never happened with a black female coach. Just get an interview. So just think about that from a historical standpoint, what that would mean to just get a phone call. The fact that it's her hometown, though, from everything that I've been told, that's the main part. That's the main part outside of the historical part, is what Philadelphia means to her. And obviously Philly means a lot because she continues to go back there. She continues to be a pillar in that community, just like she's been a pillar down here in Columbia and just throughout the rest of the state. So I think people just need to realize that from a historical standpoint, what this could lead for future female coaches in the NBA, because right now you have about a third of the in the NBA, there's about a third that represent of the teams, there's a third that are on coaching staffs in the NBA from females perspective, and you don't see, it's just something that for the last couple of years they keep taking steps forward. Why not now? Why not Dawn Staley? If Dawn Staley can't get a phone call right now, I mean, who else is going to get one other than Rebecca Hammond?
Yeah, because one of my first questions, and you have answered it, but it's a very important point to be made here. If there were other teams in the NBA who would be interested in Dawn Staley, would she be willing to listen? And from what I'm understanding, I think probably not. I think that it's because of the city of Philadelphia, and then of course it's her hometown, and encompass the fact it's an NBA job, the historical nature of that situation. But if she'd be willing to listen to just a bunch of NBA teams out there, Mike, I think then folks might be able to speculate a little bit more. Like, is Dawn really, and purely speculation here, is Dawn really happy? Is Dawn putting feelers out? What is her agent saying and things like that? But I think if we all put ourselves, Mike, right in these type shoes, like if your hometown called and it was a great opportunity where you could do something nobody else has ever done, at least from a professional standpoint, I think being willing to listen is the least you could do.
And think about the trickle-down effect, too. I don't anticipate Dawn Staley leaving South Carolina this year. I don't think anyone really does. Now, if the Philadelphia 76ers give her a call and they're blown away by the interview and she gets the job, then you guys can yell at me, but I don't anticipate that happening. But the point being is, think about the trickle-down effect this will have at USC for recruiting. I mean, if an NBA team is just showing any type of consideration for a female coach, a black female coach at that, so like I said, that'd be the first time in NBA history that's ever happened that a female black coach has been interviewed for a head coaching job. Think about what that could do for recruiting. Now, we already know what Dawn Staley brings as a player and a coach, and just the way she's been able to develop talent to get ready for the WNBA, and obviously talent that has done very well at that level. But to be able to have something like this, something that you don't necessarily, it's not concrete. You don't need that on your resume, but people would know that. People would know that and be like, you know what? Something special. There's something special about Dawn. And if there's a toss-up between South Carolina and, I don't know, another school, whether you want to say, Oregon or UConn or, whatever school, pick Team B. Something like this, it can't hurt. Can't hurt to have on your side. So, I mean, I think a lot of good come out of this. Like I said, though, Gamecock fans, don't hit the panic button. I don't believe Dawn is leaving anytime soon, but this could be very good for the program for years to come.
Mike Uva from Watch Fox up in Columbus joining us here on the JB and Goldwater show. How much does the current climate of racial injustice play into this?
Well, I mean, from my understanding, it's not something that's playing an angle with it. Just because, I think some people look at some of the things that are going on in social media these last couple of days, and obviously Dawn.
It's on Mike's side here. He'll pop back in with us in 1 second, I'm sure.
Okay. Yeah, we might have lost him here, at least temporarily.
He's at least frozen and not the greatest angle for him.
Okay. Yeah, we'll try to, but I would like him, if you don't mind, when he comes back here,
yes,
re-ask that question, because I think that is a quality question for this conversation here. Mike Uva up in Columbia. Again, let me recap if you're just joining in, and he will rejoin us here in just a moment. Does not anticipate Dawn Staley leaving. However, according to Mike today, and of course what he has posted on Watch.com, she would at least be willing to entertain the Philadelphia 76ers offering her or wanting to discuss with her the open position of head basketball coach in the NBA, which of course would make her not just the first female basketball coach in the NBA, the first black female basketball coach in the NBA as well. And I'd like to add to that, even if Dawn, not that she doesn't recruit at an exceptionally high rate anyways, because she does, and they're about to probably have the number one recruiting class in the country once again. But even if Dawn were to take this interview and it not work out, if she gets one, that would be big time for South Carolina. Like, hey, the NBA is interested in our head basketball coach.
Right.
I mean, that's a huge point. All right, we got Mike back here.
Via the phone this time.
Via the phone this time. Mike just wanted to save his TV time for tonight, and that's okay. Mike, thank you. I'm going to let Darren kind of re-ask this question so we can recoup this conversation here.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very straightforward question. Dawn Staley possibly – well, as you've reported, she will listen if, in fact, the Sixers come calling. And how much of today's current culture, of the racial injustice that we're seeing, how much does that play into the fact that this story has come to light now?
I don't know how much was cut off, so I apologize if I repeat anything. But, from everything that I've been told, that's not something that's motivating her to leave South Carolina. And I keep saying that because I think some people just, they need to hear it over and over and over. We just got to speak it into existence. She's not trying to leave South Carolina for the sake of leaving South Carolina. And I don't believe that everything that's gone on this past week, in particular, because obviously Dawn, just like she has been in the past, she's been very vocal about social injustice, and she's done a tremendous job about it. I don't think it's a driving factor. I think it's more so to do with, number one, it would just be the opportunity to be able to coach in your hometown. I think that is the number one thing. That is the driving point from everything that I've been told of why she would listen. And I know we kind of we're kind of circling back here on it, But, Jamie mentioned, if a bunch of NBA teams reached out to her, I don't know how many of those teams she would really consider listening to. And I know some people, some of the bigger name guys in the media world, they were having fun with the story last night. Oh, yeah, I'd listen if the Sixers gave me a call. It's like, well, Gino Auriemma, for a period of time, there were teams that were interested in hiring him as an NBA coach, and he had no interest. So I think some people got to realize that just because a team's interested in you doesn't mean they're going to listen. But I think the fact that this is a hometown opportunity for Dawn just to be able to listen and just to be able to create some history that can help future women coaches in the NBA is something that she would definitely at least entertain.
Well, and she's also, we have to remember, she's at a school that's committed to women's basketball. Ray Tanner and South Carolina love women's basketball as much as they love any sport on that campus or really ever have. Let me ask you this, Mike, you being from the Northeast yourself, do you see any similarities in how Dawn Staley has built this program to, the early years of how Gino built UConn? And I'm asking that question because could we look up in 10 or 12 years and see South Carolina maybe have accomplished something similar to what UConn has accomplished with all those championships?
I would say yes, but not the exact same way. Maybe it's not, I'm not the best person to answer this. Only the reason being is, I don't know. I don't remember those days when they were really taking off and I was younger in terms of just him building a relationship with the community. But from everything that I've been told with the people that work up there and that have covered the team for decades, it's nothing like what Dawn's been able to do down here. I think the biggest thing Dawn has done is she's really closed that gap and built a bridge between the team and the community. It's a fanfare. It's a fan fest every time you go there. And, I think Frank Martin sometimes, the toughest thing for him sometimes is he looks around and he's like, why aren't we getting the same support? Why aren't we getting the same support? And this is no disrespect to Frank, because I think Frank is a phenomenal coach and I think he's a great person. But I think it's just something what Dawn has been able to do. She's just been able to connect with people. And I think that really helps. Think about it. You go across college basketball for women's basketball. How often do you find the crowds that South Carolina have at other arenas?
No,
you could go to a 4 or 5 game stretch for some of these other schools in the country, and they might not even have the same number in those 4 or 5 game stretch compared to just one game at USC. So I think that is so important because you create an environment that you're not going to be able to get anywhere else. And I think more than anything, too, is you get that on top of the fact of her resume and the fact that she got to play in the league. That's something different that Gino can't say he was able to do. What Gino's been able to do at UConn is phenomenal. But Dawn just offers something different that Gino just can't because Gino's a male. Gino can't relate to the same things that Dawn has gone through.
Very well said. On Twitter at Mike _ oh, wait a second. Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
You're right.
At Mike _ UVA. And he's not a Virginia fan. So didn't people used to mistake you as some big Wahoos fan?
Oh yeah, that was fantastic. Well, when I got hired down here, I remember there was a girl that worked that went to school at Virginia, and she was all excited to meet me. And she's like, Wahoo, and I'm just like, yippee, nice to meet you too. I didn't know what she was saying. I didn't know that was the chant,
Yeah.
And she's like, you went to Virginia, right? I'm like, no. I said, I appreciate you thinking I had the grades to be able to do that, but no, I did not go to Virginia.
No.
It's just, I do have, and I have actually, it's right in front of me, my late grandfather's hat, because he would always wear the UVA hat. So I have a lot of UVA gear just because I was younger, because my parents, it was just one of those things. They liked buying it. So it was one of those, but I was never a Virginia fan by any means. But it was definitely cool growing up, just seeing, your name on the screen. It's just like, oh, they're doing it for me. And then you realize, no, it's just a college that you're definitely not go to when you get old.
Well, it's like I have a poster because a very, very distant but relative of mine, Barry Goldwater, ran for president. Yep. So there's a poster that I found on a thrift shop some random day as a student at Penn State. I'm walking down Beaver Ave. Who knows what state of mind I'm in, but in the window there's this, in your heart you know he's right, Goldwater. It's like, that's mine. So I've still got that. It's hanging in the garage at the moment, but
I don't have any of that stuff. Mike, one more real quick here on Dawn. Dawn has been very vocal on social media throughout the year as all of this has transpired, the social issues that have captured the country. She has at times even engaged with folks who disagree with her, many of them South Carolina women's basketball supporters. But I do think, Mike, if there's anybody who can engage, it's Dawn. And Dawn, though, stands her ground. She doesn't engage with somebody to for the sake of doing so. Whatever she says, she backs it up. And whether you agree with her or not, she's going to do it. So I guess I ask you this question. What do you anticipate the impact of Dawn's engagement in these issues to be as basketball season approaches? Do you think that the support of her basketball program has increased based on her recent activity on social media?
I think, how can it? How can it, especially when you're, majority of the players that you're recruiting, let's just call it for what it is. The majority of the players that you're recruiting are young black athletes, and they can relate to her. And that obviously goes back to a much, I don't know if you would say simpler roots in terms of just the fact that they can relate to her a little bit better, definitely better than they can to a guy like Gino Auriemma, just because, a lot of them could have gone through similar things in terms of the upbringings. And just the cultures that they were around and compared to like a guy like Gino. But I think more than anything, it just shows that she isn't afraid to speak up. And, I think the biggest thing too is it helps show the players like, hey, if something's on your mind and you want to say something, I'm going to support you. And I think when we're talking about just collegiate athletes right now and talking about having a voice, and I know things are going to be changing in the next couple months as we go into 2021 with players being able to make money off their names, I think this is an important time. This is an important time to be able to show your players like, hey, if you have something you want to say, be able to say it. There's a difference between just being a distraction from the team in terms of how you use social media and compared to being able to use your platform to, peacefully protest or be able to speak your mind on social issues. I think there's a big difference with that. So I think more than anything, it just shows that she has the backs of her players. And in a sport like basketball, where the numbers are so much smaller, it's more intimate in comparison to a sport like football, when you have 90, 100-plus guys on the team. I think it can only just help them from a recruiting standpoint.
Mike Uva of Watch Fox is with us now here talking about the possibility of Dawn Staley listening to the 76ers. That was his report, yesterday? Just a couple of days ago at least. Has there been any indication that the Sixers are interested in talking with Dawn?
As of yesterday, because like I said, I knew nothing about this until I got back into town yesterday, and I just made a couple texts and a couple calls, and it was just something that I think developed as like an idea from a longtime colonist in Philadelphia. So I think it was being thrown out there, putting this story out there, and I'm not saying this because I put it out there, but some of the names like, J.A. Donde, people have been able to share this story and they're weighing in on it. So, I definitely think the conversations will continue, and it can't hurt that Dawn's name is floating around out there. But, I would not be shocked if at some point they reach out to her. I would not be shocked. As of yesterday, I was told that they had not reached out to her. And like you said, Ty Lue is one of the guys that they're going after, or at least they're looking at a little heavier in comparison to some of these other guys. But from everything that I've been told, that they're keeping a lot of the people that they're going to be interviewing close to their chest. They're really not putting any feelers out right now in terms of who they might be interested in. But I think just because the fact that this happened a week ago, the fact that they got rid of their coach a week ago, I feel like it's still early in the process. Even though the season's going to be starting up much sooner, it seems like than years past. But I just think it's. I just would not be shocked if this happens. And if anyone's going to make history, why not Dawn Staley? She just continues to make history. Why not continue to make some more?
Absolutely. And probably no chance, though, if they do hire somebody else. but wanted to bring her on staff. I don't know that there's any chance that she would accept an assistant's role. Do you think?
No shot.
Yeah, no shot. Yeah, Dawn's a head coach. There's no. Hey, look, we know when Dawn's in charge. I asked Frank. When did we have Frank on? Last month. I said,
yeah, about that.
I said, who's got a meaner look, you or Muschamp? And he said, Dawn.
Yes.
So, yeah, we know Dawn. All right, real quick before we let you run here, the Gamecock football today, I think the women's soccer team maybe joined them as well. Took the day off with practice, and Coach Muschamp and the players and the staff did have a demonstration on Green Street. For those who don't know where that is, it's right in front of the Russell House on campus. Have you received any reports from this demonstration, anything of note? We know the football team obviously out there for social injustice and police brutality.
Well, I know Jay Urich was one of the players that spoke today. You had a handful of players for football. You also had some soccer players speak. And I can't speak in terms of if everyone was all together at once, as they continue to obviously practice social distancing. But I heard it was powerful. Especially the words that Jay Urich spoke today, as he said a prayer upon everyone. And I just can't say enough about that young man, especially the way that he's gone about. I think the way he's handled his football career there, it doesn't surprise you the way he's been handling this. He's a guy that goes in there every day, does his job, does whatever he's asked to do. I'll never forget that spring football performance he had a year ago at receiver after moving there for just, for the spring, and then obviously he stayed in fall, but now he's back at quarterback, and he just went off, had over 100 yards receiving. He is someone that's just using his platform, and he understands, I'm a white male. My teammates, they're hurting right now. I want to be able to say something. And that's just who he is. He's not doing it for publicity. Yes, they're selling T-shirts now, but he's not doing it to be able to make a name for himself. This is who Jay Urich is. And I think it's always just great to see student athletes be able to use that platform, but especially like we were talking about before with Dawn and her players. The voice that student athletes have now more than ever is bigger. It's bigger than ever before because of social media. And being able to understand to use that vehicle to your advantage instead of letting it use you is so important. So to be able to figure that out at such a young age, I think it just speaks volumes of what he's all about, and especially what this football team was able to do today, and I think it was tremendous.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to practice tomorrow. Obviously, this has been a wacky year, Mike. You've done an exceptional job. You've got a lot to cover every day. People often ask Darren and I ourselves, what do you talk about when there's no sports going on? We're like, you kidding me? There's plenty to discuss. But I got really good news for you. Here in about 26 days, you're going to be covering South Carolina football, the game part of this thing. So really looking forward to that again. Look, we're going to have you back soon. You're one of the best. There's no question. We really appreciate your time. Columbia is incredibly lucky to have you up there at Fox. Hopefully you stick around for a while because it's great stuff, and we really, really thank you.
No, I really appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
Have a wonderful afternoon, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Later.
There you go. Mike Yuva in Columbia with Watch Fox. Really good report on Dawn Staley there. Really good stuff. Another really good report coming up on the other side of this break. Wes Mitchell, he's also in Columbia. I didn't even get to – you know what? We didn't even follow up. He was on Colin Taylor's bachelor party this weekend.
That's right. We didn't follow up on that. Where was the bachelor party? Do we know?
Oh. I think Asheville.
Oh.
No. Dangerous.
Oh, man. I mean, there's so many.
I've been doing a bachelor party in Asheville. It's dangerous.
I haven't been to a bachelor party, but I sort of did my own. The SoCon basketball tournament's always up there. So when I was doing the SoCon stuff, there's always that, the championship game. Then the big guys come in, and ESPN or E2 does that game. So me and Dean Keener, the guys who've been doing every game in the tournament up to that point, we have the day off.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to have my own little brewery tour by myself. It was outstanding. There is great beer in Asheville.
There is.
The championship game was fun, too, for the couple minutes I absolutely remember that year.
Yeah. Wicked Weeds right there downtown.
Yes,
of course,
it is.
On your way into town is the oh God,
there's
the big one.
There's
the
a
big
ton. Sierra Nevada.
Sierra
It
Nevada.
might be what
Sierra
you're going
Nevada.
for.
Yeah, which they built the building off of the land. Everything they removed, they put back into the building.
Yep, Highlands is up there. There's so much good stuff. If you go to the Wicked Weed Brewery, they have Brussels sprouts.
Oh, they have killer food.
To die for the Brussels sprouts. They're mustard-based. And then they give you the pretzels with mustard to dip as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Wicked Weed's food is just as good as their beer. And they're not a sponsor of the show.
No. Maybe they will be one day. Time for a timeout. When we return, Wes Mitchell with Gamecock Central right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by our friends at Stokes Volkswagen.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks, not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Hey guys, it's Darren, just here to tell you about our good friends over at Dog and Duck. They've got 3 locations, one in Bell Hall, one in Park West, and one, the new one, out on Clements Ferry. I can tell you from personal experience, it's the only restaurant in town that I've been to since this whole place has reopened. Everything is socially distant, very comfortable, and to top it all off, great selection of rotating craft beers, food specials every day, family meals. If you don't want to go in, you can order it and have some curbside pickup as well. Dog and Duck, 3 locations, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back 9 is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the national anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
104, welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by our friends at Stokes Volkswagen. Darren Goldwater, Jamie Bradford. 1 more hour to go. You can watch us every day on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and on Periscope. You can listen on the Podbean app, all available at jbandgoldwatershow.com. Wes Mitchell joining us now from Columbia, South Carolina, in this final day of August. You can find him at GamecockCentral.com. If you're not a member of Gamecock Central, you should be. Flash sale, 50% off an annual subscription for new subscribers, and there's a bunch of good stuff in there right now. They did scrimmage on Saturday, and Wes is going to tell us all about that on Twitter at Wes Mitchell GC. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going?
Hey, it's good. You know, we're getting closer, Wes. This is We got 26 days to go, brother, before you actually, get to cover the game part of this thing.
It's been a while, man. I'm excited, though. I'll tell you what, it really hit me when they said, hey, Will Muschamp has a call-in show last week. And I was like, man, this actually feels a little bit like football season. So I'm excited, guys. I know y'all are too.
Dude, I know. I was listening to Coach Muschamp. I was joking with Colin Taylor on Thursday morning about it on Twitter, about how a lot of those calls go, as in like Todd Ellis, go ahead, caller, you're on the air. We've got Mike. Mike, go ahead. Hello? Yeah, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you, Mike. Thanks for the phone call. Go ahead. Hello? Go ahead, Mike. Yeah, can you hear me? All right, let me tell you about my Carolina. You know what I mean?
Hence the reason we don't take a lot of phone calls on this show.
Oh, gosh. Did you go to Colin's bachelor party this weekend?
I did not. I did not. But I do hear whatever happened there does not leave Asheville, so I probably can't say much.
Yeah, don't do that. I know. I've been to a bachelor party in Asheville. Nobody will ever know the details. Not that they were bad. All right. So they scrimmaged. South Carolina scrimmaged on Saturday. This was important. It was the first one. 125 snaps, Wes. But I think Will had made it a point. He said this on our program on Wednesday, and then he said it again right afterwards. Actually, he had a Zoom call.
Yes.
And then I think he mentioned it on Thursday night. He kept kind of hammering it. Hey, look, we're not going to have coaches on the field. We're going to put the guys in the booth. We're going to put them on the sideline. We're going to let them go out there and play. How'd that work out?
Yeah, I think it was good. I think you had some procedural issues like you would expect. Just the stuff we never really even think about or talk about. The fact that in a normal practice, the coaches are on the field. A lot of times they're given, real-time feedback about what you did wrong, about where you need to get lined up, about stuff like that. Well, you take that away, and it's like taking that safety blanket away. So you implement that coaches are on the sideline, there are coaches actually in the booth. You start talking about communications issues and communicating from the headset down to the sideline, from the sideline to the field, and you're going to have some issues. So they had some of that, some delays of game, false starts, offsides, stuff like that. That's generally pretty normal for a first scrimmage. But, Muschamp said he liked the way the guys competed. That was the one thing he challenged them. You're going to make mistakes, but go play. He said they played fast. That's always, I think, a good sign, because when you're learning new things, you're learning a new scheme, sometimes it's hard to play fast. And I think that's a good sign for Carolina fans. Here we are, like you said, 26 days away. And you never want to get too bogged down with thinking. You want to go out there. If you're going to make mistakes, make them at full speed.
Wes, I asked Will last week, what are the strengths of Colin versus the strengths of Ryan? And the first thing he said about Colin was his knowledge of the offense. What reports have you heard about how or if that did show through in that Saturday scrimmage?
Yeah, I've heard the actual scrimmage, it's pretty similar performance for both quarterbacks. Both guys had some good moments. Both guys had some, like I said, with the entire offense, some issues, I'm sure. But, I think you look, and ultimately as the practices have played out, I do think it's been apparent. I mean, you look at what Nick Muse said last week. He said that Colin may know the offense better than Coach Bobo. So obviously that's an exaggeration on his part. But when a guy says something like that, I kind of take notice. And that's a huge advantage for this offense, having somebody come in that already has complete understanding. And then, if a guy's on the field and a running back forgets something or a receiver forgets something, having a quarterback who already sort of knows where everybody's supposed to be, once the lights come on, I think it could be a huge advantage for South Carolina.
Tell me about Mike Bobo's scheme. What do you know about it?
Yeah, I think it's very multiple. I think it's evolved as he's gone from place to place. It's evolved from his time at Georgia to his time at Colorado State to, I'm sure, now. The two words I always hear is multiple and matchups. And basically what that means is that he's going to give you a ton of looks. There is some complexity to it. I think it's been a blessing in disguise that the season's been pushed back, because it's given these players time to really dive in and learn this offensive scheme, because anytime you're going to try to do a lot of different things and have a diverse running game, do different things, you're under center, you're spread out, you're in the shotgun. It is a lot to learn, but I think the OTAs, the added time, has really helped them as far as that part goes. And, then the other part, like I said, matchups. I think he's going to try to find matchups to exploit. He's going to try to layer plays on top of plays as far as complementary, setting things up. And then, but ultimately, I think Bobo is going to be really good for Will Muschamp. It's going to be really good for South Carolina football. The question goes back to what we've talked about all offseason. Are there going to be enough playmakers, within this offense to sort of go make some plays for you?
Yeah, we're going to get to some of those playmakers here in just a minute, but I want to stay on the scheme, the topic of the scheme here for a second, because that doesn't, although it doesn't sound much different from Steve Spurrier. I'll make one quick reference here. This weekend, I had a buddy at the house, and we actually pulled up the Alabama game. I have it on DVR. We pulled up the Alabama game, and Coach Spurrier always ran plays to set up other plays, but Coach Spurrier always found matchups. I mean, and if you ever talked to anybody who played in that game that day, I'm sure you have. I mean, Stephen Garcia told me point blank a few years ago, Wes, look, Spurrier knew quickly that day Alshon was just the best guy on the field. It didn't matter who Bama put on him. I think they put 2 or 3 guys on him. Nobody could cover him. So he was able to figure that out. So I referenced that to ask this question. Do you get the sense that this is the most comfortable Will Muschamp has been in his head coaching career with an offensive coordinator, maybe very similar to how Steve Spurrier felt when he had Ellis Johnson running the defense?
Yeah, I don't want to speak for Coach Muschamp because I don't know if he feels that way, but I will say from my perspective, it very much would mirror that, because I think, Bobo not only has offensive coordinator experience, we all know he also has head coaching experience. There's certainly something from being on that side and having to sort of look at the entire picture that I think, one, helps you grow as a coach. I'm sure Mike Bobo will tell you he's probably a better coach now having head coaching experience than he was before that. But then to be able to turn it over, you remember they even called Ellis Johnson, his title was head coach in charge of defense or assistant head coach in charge of defense. Mm-hmm. So, I think you almost sort of have that with Mike Bobo. This is a situation where, he can basically, if you're Will Muschamp, you can completely take your hands off and say, go run the offense. I'm going to worry about the defense. And I think that's very valuable for Will Muschamp. And, I think with Bobo, you have a guy who also has the personality, has the energy to sort of do that. He's not going to, he basically can command the room. It's not like you just have another assistant there. You have someone who's bringing in a very particular, he has his own scheme. You know what I mean? He has a foundation for this scheme. He had, something we always hear people talk about is, why doesn't South Carolina have an identity? And I think that was something last year offensively. Yeah. We heard a lot of, that was a big complaint. Well, you look at Bobo, I think he sort of knows what he wants the identity of his offense to be. He has a particular scheme, and he's going to come in and run it.
On Twitter, at Wes Mitchell GC, another example would be Brent Venables at Clemson. I mean, Dabo didn't even have to look to that side of the field. He knows whatever Brent's doing is working. All right, playmakers. Who would start at wide receiver today? What does that two deep look like?
Yeah, starters would be Shy, Xavier Legette, Jalen Brooks would be the first 3. After that, you're looking at some combination. Let's see, I don't want to leave anybody out. Probably Luke Doty, DeCarrion Joyner, Rico Powers is in that mix. Josh Vann is probably in that mix as far as top 6. So, wow. Some combination of those guys, which, I think you look and people have been like, on our board have been like, well, what's up with Jalen Brooks transferring from Wingate and all of a sudden being a starter? And I said, well, look at it the other way. What if you hadn't gotten Jalen Brooks, So just be thankful you did, that this guy is as good as the staff thinks he is, and that he can come in and help you. So I think it's sort of been a mixed bag at receiver because, Muschamp has simultaneously talked about some of the explosive plays and being happy with the number of explosive plays, while then also talking about how receiver going into the scrimmage was still one of the biggest concerns on the team. So I think it's kind of, to me, that really screams consistency in that they're getting some big plays, they're having some good moments, but they need to see more, I would guess, consistency from that position moving forward.
How about the running back spot? I mean, that's been the big news area with Lloyd going down. So what came out of the scrimmage from that position?
Yeah, I got to say, first and foremost, it's been a long time since I've felt as bad for a kid as I did for Marshawn Lloyd.
Yeah.
Just knowing how he's done everything the right way, and then to start his career off like that, that was a gut punch, I think, for the program. But here's the thing, man. Marshawn Lloyd handled that better than any 18-year-old kid ever possibly could. And I think we all could probably learn a lot of how to handle adversity from Marshawn Lloyd. I mean, just amazing there. You can't say enough about that. The scrimmage Saturday, I heard some Rashad Amos buzz. I think the kid's got some ability to him. Muschamp mentioned, he had some ball security issues. He mentioned the other week maybe he's still learning the scheme, but I think just from explosiveness, making people miss, Rashad Amos has got some ability to him. Zaquandre White, still the guy that I think South Carolina is going to need to continue to come on and to kind of be the guy. I think obviously we're still a few weeks out, but if you're projecting out, White is maybe the guy with the best combination of talent, having some experience, and just being able to make some plays at that position.
Yeah, Rashad Amos, I continue to hear good things about him too. Will has alluded to the fact multiple times, Wes, in the last few weeks that you can't – he did it on our program here. He said you can't complete a season with one or two running backs. It's just not possible. So I do think truly, and now, of course, the fact you throw the whole redshirt thing out the window, everybody's going to get an extra year. I feel very comfortable in saying all four of those guys are going to get the football probably a decent amount.
Yeah, you need at some point, whether you're the first teamer or the fourth teamer when South Carolina kicks off against Tennessee, at some point South Carolina, you can almost guarantee we'll need all four of those guys, just because we all see it every year. You need multiple guys. That position without fail will always get banged up because they take so many hits.
Real quick, reverting back to receivers here, I know that there are fans out there that are a little bit concerned because when they look like the seven names you mentioned, of those seven names, I'm not one, but there are people that are concerned. They say, well, now wait a second, you got a transfer from Wingate in Jalen Brooks, you got a true freshman Enrico Powers, and you got a quarterback in Luke Doty, and a former quarterback in De'Carrion Joyner. What happened to all those other guys? Like Drake Davis, and I know you didn't mention Josh Vann, but why is Josh Vann not one of the first names that's mentioned with this group? What's going on with Otrey? Will said that he's been out for an undisclosed issue. I mean, there's a bunch of guys who've been on this roster for quite some time, and it appears right now that they would not be the top guys today if the season started.
Yeah, that's true, and it's interesting. If you look on paper, they've recruited very well at receiver. And then, you look, the results with those guys hasn't always been there. So, we'll see how this thing plays out. Is it ideal at receiver right now? I think absolutely not. But the reason you bring in Brooks, the reason, you move De'Carrion over, the reason you look at Luke there is that they're trying to put all the pieces together. They're trying to do what they can to make this work and find guys who can consistently go, make plays. So we'll see, if Josh Vann keeps coming on, which he's had a couple of good days of practice and then the scrimmage, then, if he keeps coming on, he'll jump all those guys. If Ortre Smith is back and good to go and making plays, he'll quickly jump, several guys as well. So I think at that position, it'll be an ongoing competition throughout the year. But right now, I think it's been pretty clear from what I've heard, Shai, Leggett, Brooks are sort of the dudes. They just really, really need the NCAA to give them good news on Brooks and give it to them, within the next 26 days.
Is that? I mean, the timeline for Brooks, he can practice just so everyone's clear. He can continue to go through all the reps like everybody else on the team as long as then he is cleared to play come game day. Then he can play. But as of now, he's not, correct?
Yes, no limitations. He can do anything except step out there when the game starts. And if I know anything about the NCAA, we're going to be tracking this thing right up into 24 hours before the first.
For 25 days and 12 hours.
Nick Muse was cleared the day after the first game last year? When that it?
It was week 2. I don't even think it was that early, if I remember.
Oh no,
right.
you're right. It was like
I think it was leading up to game 2.
It was like it might have been the morning of game 2 or something, or late the night before.
Yeah, it was weird, man.
Bizarre.
It was wild.
All right, hey, on the defensive side of the football, it's hard, I think, to not be excited about the secondary. I mean, all of these guys have been playing for quite some time, with the exception of Jamie Robinson, although he pretty much started all last year as a true freshman. But, I mean, if you had to run these guys out there today, Izzy and JC and Jamie and RJ, they've been a group. So, this has got to be the best that Will has felt about this group. But if they have to change personnel, if they have to go to a nickel or a dime, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think the first 4 guys you mentioned are the top 4. They always look in terms of who are the top 5, not necessarily, who necessarily has to play a particular spot, but what gets the best 5 on the field. And, I tell you, I think it's still ongoing. I've heard a lot of good things about Cam Smith lately. I think if he can continue to come on, that's something we talked about all offseason. That helps you now. You could slide him at corner, slide Izzy up to safety. You could slide JC over to nickel. The great thing about what they have working right now in the secondary is that they're going to have some options. Cam at corner, Johnny Dixon at corner, Darius Rush has come on at corner. You got Jalen Dickerson back healthy at safety. Shiloh Sanders maybe can do some things at safety. So for the first time in a long time, I think they've got a lot of guys they can work with. And really the beauty of that is that you can actually make some of those decisions based on matchups. If you have a team that has an outstanding slot receiver and not a lot else, maybe you just slide JC over there at nickel and say, lock him down. I think depending on the team, the opponent, what they're working with, you can sort of move guys around because you do have that versatility and that depth this year.
All right, final question. I know you're a popular man today. You got a bunch of interviews going on. You must be pretty decent at what you do. All right, final question, defensive side of the football. Defensive line really looking for 2 deep, if not 3 deep. I know Will wants to be able to run 9, 10, 11 guys out there game to game if he can. They have the numbers, but what do the numbers look like right now?
Yeah, I think right now, starters, it's the veteran guys. Enigbare and Sterling on the outside, Keir Thomas, Jabari Ellis on the inside. Now, Muschamp said he wanted more from the second group in the scrimmage. But I think, man, there's talent there. You look interior especially, Zach Pickens, Rick Sandage, I'll go Boogie Huntley, who I think looks fantastic for a freshman physically. You got guys to work with there. You look at the buck position where Enigbare is. Jordan Birch with the just natural pass rush ability there. He's going to help, man. I mean, even if it's situationally, he's definitely going to help them this year. Tonka Hemingway at defensive end has popped. You still have, obviously, Joe Anderson there as well. So I think, it's not that they have a ready-made 2 deep, but you just look at the talent with this second team that I think in the next 3 weeks as they keep bringing these young kids on that I think they're going to feel pretty good about those positions moving forward. But so far, you can see they made a very concerted effort to get the veterans on the field and sort of let them take ownership of this defensive front.
Yeah, for folks who are infatuated with stars, you just ran off a bunch of 4 and 5 stars. They've recruited exceptionally well on the defensive line. South Carolina should play well over there. All right, we'll let you run on that note. And, I'll call you later on and figure out which interview you enjoyed best.
Hey, I give this interview 5 stars.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
So then the rest of the interviews just can't be that 4.5 or below.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Nope.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yep. Always, Wes. Thank you so much. There you go, Wes Mitchell on Twitter at Wes Mitchell GC. Gamecock Central, 50% off right now. Flash sale. You should do it. I mean, it's like $50 for the whole year. I mean, that's just a steal.
Yeah, that's what. So it's either you get a couple months free, or it's like $50 for the year.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy stuff.
May as well give it a shot.
Crazy stuff.
Nothing to lose.
By the way, today is a very important national day, which we'll get to here.
There were some good ones over the weekend that I was seeing.
Yeah. Very important national day coming up. Very important. Maybe the most important national day, at least here in our state. So, I'll just say that. Lines are out, by the way. How about this? Betting lines are out from betonline.ag. And Clemson has opened on September the 12th as a 32-point favorite over Wake Forest. 32-point favorite with betonline.ag. We will get some betting lines coming up on Friday from our friend Rafael Esparza, whom, of course, we have a segment with every week around here. But those are not up yet. They have pulled them down, and they're planning to re-release those. But BetOnline's are out. 32-point favorite of the Tigers on the road in Winston-Salem. Here's the rest of the ACC. Syracuse, 18.5-point dogs to North Carolina. Florida State, 11.5-point favorites, hosting Georgia Tech Saturday, September the 12th. By the way,
that's closer than I would have guessed, that line.
Yeah, me too. Mm-hmm. This one is, I think, as well. It's not an ACC team, but Coastal are only 3-point dogs on the road at Kansas on Saturday, September the 12th.
Good things are expected out of Coastal, and Kansas, football is not exactly what they're known for, even with Les Miles.
Right.
But that would certainly be a really bad way to open the season for Les and the Jayhawks to lose at home to Coastal.
I wonder if he carries like a blade of grass out there since they play on turf. Duke and Notre Dame. Notre Dame 20.5 point favorites against Duke. Again, Saturday, September the 12th. And that is your slate. It looks like in the ACC. Oh, Louisville, Western Kentucky. By the way, that's closer than I thought, too. Louisville, 13.5 point favorites in that ball game there. Skipping ahead to Saturday, September the 26th.
There's pay attention to this. There are some lines, some gettable lines here that JB just read off to you.
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. La Tech, 17.5 point dogs to Baylor on the 12th.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Now, we know La Tech can score, but Baylor can certainly score, and that game's on the road. But don't count out Skip Holtz's guys. Saturday, September the 26th, into the SEC. The lines are now out as well from betonline.ag. Bama, 21.5 point favorites on the road at Missouri. Florida, just 10.5 point favorites on the road at Ole Miss. Georgia and Arkansas, dogs 24-point favorites. I'll be honest with you, I hate to say this, but I would probably take Georgia. I'd probably go over 24 there against Arkansas. Kentucky and Auburn, I said this a couple weeks ago when the schedule was released. As soon as it came on TV, I tweeted, careful, Auburn. 7.5 point favorites are the Tigers at home against the upset-prone Wildcats.
That's closer than most experts believed it would be, because when the schedule came out, it was expected that Carolina and Tennessee would be the only game under a double-digit spread.
Yeah, and it's not. There are two. That Carolina-Tennessee line is close, though. Mississippi State, they are 16-point underdogs on the road at LSU, and then Vanderbilt, 30-point dogs on the road against Texas A&M. Tennessee, 3-point favorites in Columbia against South Carolina. So that is the closest line in the SEC for the opening weekend on Saturday, September the 20th.
You know, we have to ask Raphael, traditionally speaking, NFL, college football, the home team, when you're putting out betting lines, it's about three points for the home team. So how is it different this year with no or 20% capacity of fans? I mean, how much of a weight does that have for the home team?
That's a really, really good question.
Yeah, because if it's status quo, then Vegas is saying Tennessee is 6 points better than Carolina.
Right. A touchdown, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up this weekend, there is football, folks. Middle Tennessee State and Army. They'll kick at 1:30. I think that's on the CBS Sports Network.
Yep.
Army, they're 4-point favorites on Saturday afternoon. SMU, 20.5 point favorites on the road at Texas State at 4:30. And Memphis, 18.5 point favorites at home against Arkansas State at 8 o'clock on Saturday night. Monday, which of course is Labor Day, BYU and Navy. Navy, just 1-point favorites in that ball game against BYU. So a tight one there. Essentially a pick-em ball game.
The big game of the weekend. BYU and Navy.
Yeah.
That's Herb Street and Fowler's game,
Herb Street and Fowler will have that game. Yeah, no doubt about it. So, and of course, I hope everybody enjoyed Austin Peay in Central Arkansas.
I'll say this about it.
Saturday night.
The new graphics, and if you did not catch that game, I don't think they used it in the high school games. I don't believe. They may have, but it'll be across all college football games, even the ESPN3 stuff and Plus stuff that you watch. ESPN has a new graphics package out. Their score bug looks sharp. Their replays look sharp. Some of their transitions, you'll like it. If you weren't paying attention then, pay attention this weekend because you'll like it. It's a good step forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, look. Any step forward right now is a good step forward. forget the graphics. I don't care where they play and what it looks like.
I'm a nerd for TV production
I know.
stuff, so I pay attention to that.
There is football on Thursday night. Central Arkansas at UAB at 8 o'clock on ESPN3 and on the CBS Sports Network at 9. Southern Miss will host South Alabama.
Quick turnaround for Central Arkansas.
Yeah, absolutely. So football coming up this weekend, guys. Really looking forward to it, and gals. And hopefully, here's the rest of the slate. Eastern Kentucky at Marshall, 1 o'clock on ESPN on Saturday. And Houston Baptist is at North Texas, 7:30 Saturday night. And what is the other game I did not mention? UTEP hosting Stephen F. Austin late on Saturday night. I've already mentioned all the other games.
Yeah, and then ECU, was it supposed to be this weekend, maybe next weekend, but they've also postponed their opener.
Yeah, they postponed to the 26th, I believe.
That's NC State Vatech. I'm not sure if that's the same as ECU. It would make sense if it was, though.
Yeah, I might be incorrect, but I'm pretty sure.
And I'm also fairly positive it's just those two that have been postponed to this point.
Okay, all right. We'll
I'll double check that.
Keep our eyes on that. All right, time for a timeout. A report circulating on Dabo maybe jumping ship to the NFL with one of his current players. We'll tell you who and where, plus take another quick peek at the MLB's trade deadline and other football notes to get to, some pretty important ones in the SEC in particular. So hang tight. The final segment of the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by our friends at Stokes Volkswagen. We'll be right back.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. Every 2020 Tiguan S, our best-selling third-row SUV, is $3,500 off plus 0 APR for 72 months. But wait, there's more. With $299 down, you can own the Tiguan S for just $299 per month for 72 months at 0% APR. Not just one at this price, over 22 Tiguans to choose from. All $3,500 off plus 0 APR for 72 months and $299 down, $299 per month. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, we are so desperate for used cars that we'll take any trade in any condition, running or not. We need your trade more, so we'll flat out give you more. And don't worry about your credit. Our lenders are more lenient than ever. So if you're interested in saving $3,500 on a new Volkswagen Tiguan S and owning it for $299 down, $299 per month, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks. Not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
Hey guys, it's Darren, just here to tell you about our good friends over at Dog and Duck. They've got 3 locations, one in Bell Hall, one in Park West, and one, the new one, out on Clements Ferry. I can tell you from personal experience, it's the only restaurant in town that I've been to since this whole place has reopened. Everything is socially distant, very comfortable, and to top it all off, great selection of rotating craft beers, food specials every day, family meals. If you don't want to go in, you can order it and have some curbside pickup as well. Dog and Duck, 3 locations, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
Now, hear this.
Who the hell is that? The JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
All right, final segment on the final day of August. Finally. Into September we go.
So it's going to cool off, right?
I hope so. The old weather almanac guys, the farmers almanac, they're saying it will.
Uh-huh.
So hopefully it will. All right, 843-321-8893 is our phone number. You can call us. The phone lines are open for the rest of the show. You can also tweet to us, and that's at JB and Goldwater on Twitter. You can text that phone number as well, 843-321-8893. Bunch of ways to get a hold of Darren and I day in and day out on our program. Thanks to Mike Yuba and Wes Mitchell for joining us back-to-back in the last couple of segments here as well. All right, so did get news today that Leonard Fournette has been released in Jacksonville. How many first-round picks have they released over the last couple of years?
So I'm glad you just brought that up. So but I now have to scroll back through to see something that I retweeted. But basically, the reason the Jaguars are the Jaguars and they're stuck in the mud, the last 5 years, or the last 6 years, I believe, they've had 5 early draft picks, none of which are having any success with the team. Here you go. Top 5. Jags had top 5 draft picks for 6 straight years from 2012, 2017.
Okay.
Justin Blackmon, Luke Jekyll, Blake Bortles, Dante Fowler, Jalen Ramsey, Fournette. None of their 5 or their 6 top 5 picks are still with the team. They got picks for 2 of them, but that's about it. That's how you stay bad.
That's just awful.
As Jeff Schultz, who covers everything Atlanta, he tweeted, "This is why teams stay bad."
Yeah, that's just terrible.
Yes.
And if you would have told me that Leonard Fournette would not be starting in 2020, I would have told you you're nuts, especially after watching his career in college. But he might not be. And according to reports, they couldn't get anything for him. I mean, there was a report that they were even trying to trade him for 5th and 6th round picks and couldn't get one. So they've released him. Speaking of the Jaguars, though, a report from Nick Costco with 24/7 Sports, and here's the headline. Could Dabo Swinney coach the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2021? He goes on to say that Dabo Swinney is arguably the top coach in college football, although Nick Saban might argue that point. But speaking on this morning's Get Up on TV, former general manager Mike Tannenbaum believes it's a realistic option for the Jaguars. Quote, "There's a lot of speculation that Dabo Swinney, who's been on the short list of multiple head coaching searches, could be a coach that teams want to talk about. This would be the perfect storm, and here's why. He's immensely popular in that area of the country, and if he can go with Trevor Lawrence right down the road to Jacksonville with all those picks and cap room, that's the ideal situation. I know from talking to a number of NFL general managers that they see Dabo in the same mold as Pete Carroll, a high-energy guy. Pete Carroll has been a coach in the college and in the pros, in college and in pros. If Dabo Swinney was going to do it, and that's a big if, this would be the perfect situation. If Swinney would ever go, this would be the perfect storm to do it with following this season." Now, this is a report. Here's my take. It ain't happening. Why? You know, like why? You're paid $9 million. You're at the top of the world in college football. Why would you go to a place like Jacksonville?
Well, so I am I'm more 50-50 than you are because
I'm 100% no.
I get that. So there's precedent here. It just happened when Kyler Murray was coming out and his head coach went to Arizona and now they're united with the Cardinals and it looks like it's going to work. So there's precedent there. There is longer precedent of college kids coming out more ready to play immediately in the NFL, specifically at the quarterback position.
Yeah, Trevor would probably be one of those guys.
Yes, you would think so. Yeah. And by all
I know Joe Burrow just got named the starter in Cincinnati.
Right. By all indications, that's what Trevor Lawrence would be. So you take that. Then you take the current climate of college sports and the NIL, the name, image, and likeness. Dabo has regularly said he is not in support of players taking any money. The culture of the country at the moment, where he doesn't seem very comfortable to be in the position that he's in, and when you're in the NFL, you're not, in a sense, you're not as much the voice of the team as the head coach, because you have guys who are bigger names. You have your stars. You have the owners of the franchise. The head coach isn't necessarily looked upon like the head coach is in college. Mm-hmm. So if you take those two things together, the fact that there is belief that you can go right into the NFL and win, you've got the two guys, Dabo and Trevor, staying together. Maybe there's some uncomfort in the college game. And then if you throw in something that's the X factor that we don't know, what are Dabo's long-term goals? Does he want to be in college forever and win 50 national championships? Or is there this carrot hanging out there of, well, what can I do?
Mm-hmm.
What is possible? Because if he does make the leap to the NFL, there's always a door open in college. He can always go back. But there may not be another opportunity for him to go forward in the NFL with an opportunity like this, with a guy who he knows well, has a great relationship with, who has stood up for him and defended him and spoken for him, going down to Jacksonville and building a team.
Well, your last point there, I think, is a really good one. If you would even entertain the thought, you're probably not going to have a situation that's going to be much better than that. I would also kind of venture a guess here that if he ever had the thought of, hey, look, I'd like to give it a shot in the NFL, it would come with a lot of stipulations. Look, I want this. I want control over this. This is the amount of money that I want, and things of that nature. Dabo Swinney is a college football coach. Dabo Swinney very much enjoys being in charge of college football players, and as you mentioned a moment ago, that is certainly not the case in the NFL. Although there are some coaches out there who are certainly in charge, like Bill Belichick and Andy Reid and guys like that. It's their program. This is my organization. This is how it's going to be done. I don't think that going and attempting to build something in the NFL is something that he would really want to entertain. I think he likes that small town lifestyle in Clemson. He makes $9 million a year. He's in the middle of a contract that's going to pay him $90 million. If you go to the NFL, I mean, like, I guess the way I'm looking at this is why interrupt that? Because there are way too many examples of guys who've jumped the NFL, it didn't work out, and then they have to come back and kind of restart something. I mean, look, it did work out for Pete Carroll,
mm-hmm.
but Pete Carroll, before he went to college, had like 15 years in the pros, and that was a different situation. That was starting in college going. It worked out for the most part for Coach Spurrier, although a very interesting story with Coach Spurrier is
it did not work out in D.C.
No. I mean, come back to college.
Oh, coming back.
Like if you go to, I'm saying if you go to the NFL and it doesn't work out, wanting to go back to college.
Yeah.
For the most part, it worked out for Coach Spurrier. But what if he never left Florida? I mean, what would they have accomplished if he had never left Florida? Would they have won another national championship or two?
But he retired from Florida, right? He didn't jump Florida to the Skins.
Well, he did. Yeah, he left.
I thought he was out a year or two before he okay.
He left and right to Washington.
Okay.
And we all know how that worked out. But the interesting thing about Spurrier, though, did you ever hear the story about him wanting to go back to Florida? Did you ever hear about that?
No.
Yeah, Steve wanted to come back to college, wanted to come back to the SEC, wanted to come back to the SEC East. He knew where he wanted to be. Wanted to be in the SEC East. Well, Florida's Ron Zook was going to get fired.
Mm-hmm.
And Spurrier kind of knew that. And he reached out and said, look, I'd be interested in coming back to Gainesville. That sounds great, Steve. Yeah, just send your resume right on in. Say that again? My resume is up on the walls of Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. I don't think I need to send any resume. I got a statue out front.
Mm-hmm.
So
as a player and coach.
Yeah. So, then quickly Mike McGee, contacted him. He came right to South Carolina. But what are other examples here? I mean, we don't know how it's going to work out for Cliff Kingsbury yet. We don't know.
Nope.
Still too early to tell. Did not work out for Chip Kelly.
Chip Kelly, no.
At all. And I think a lot of people thought that it really would because of the style he was bringing to the NFL, and it just burned out.
There was some hope that could work, yes. But the Cliff Kingsbury thing is the closest example that we have to Dabo potentially going to Jacksonville because of the fact that you can go and get your quarterback from college to lead your team in the NFL.
See, I like how you're phrasing that. Look, it doesn't convince me that Dabo would even entertain this, but I like how you're phrasing that much more than somebody phrasing Well, people think he's similar to Pete Carroll and just his energy and how he deals with the guys, and that may be true.
I agree with that part.
But the situations are not similar, but the situation compared to I like the Cliff Kingsbury comparison better.
So, I mean, I like
I haven't thought of that.
The personality thing I get. I get that. But there's something enticing because the biggest thing, the X factor here that we don't know, and we're not going to know, because if the question is ever asked of Dabo Swinney this year, are you interested in the NFL? The answer is going to be no. He will either dance around it, or he will say no, or he will laugh it off. You're not going to get the answer. But inside of Dabo's household, Dabo, his wife, whoever else is close with him, they know about his long-term goals. And if the NFL is on that radar, because look, let's be realistic. Is Dabo going to coach anywhere else in college other than Clemson?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Do you think – all right, let me ask you – this is hypothetical.
Yeah.
Is there a better chance that Dabo would leave Clemson for Alabama if Saban retired, or a better chance that Dabo would leave Clemson for the NFL?
This is why I think there's a better than 50% chance that this report could come to fruition. I think there's a better chance Dabo goes to the NFL than goes to Alabama. I don't think Dabo coaches anywhere in college other than Clemson.
No, I don't either.
That's my belief.
I don't think.
So the only way he leaves is if the train just goes completely off the tracks, in which case he would jump at some point and get out, or he has a long-term goal of success at the NFL, or at least dipping his toes in and seeing if he can be successful at the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is in Dabo's head, and we'll never know, but if that's part of his mindset, then this is an opportunity that has to be considered. It just has to be considered.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Again, I just don't think in any way, shape, or form that he would leave, and I don't think he really has any reason to. But it's very rare, too, in college football now especially, to see a guy start and finish his career with the same program. And so, Coach Spurrier's kind of always said coaching is always about timing, as far as getting that next job or, whatever it is. Whatever happens in your coaching career, it really usually comes down to timing. And so you kind of always question, and I don't think it's any time soon. Don't get me wrong, any Clemson fans, I'm not in the least bit speculating that he's looking for any exit strategies up there. But if he was ever to leave, whenever that might be, 5 years, 10 years, next year, tomorrow, whenever it is, what would that look like? I would think he would want it to look more like Bob Stoops. Look, I've been here, I've won, I've done it, I've made all my money, I've got a bunch of records, I'm just ready to move on and enjoy life or whatever he wants to do. I'm going to hand the keys over to this guy who's just ready to, drive this ship right through all the rough seas, just like Bob did at Oklahoma. And, of course, Lincoln Riley is one of the best coaches in the country. Mm-hmm. I think if there's a perfect scenario where you could have literally a perfect transition, what could have been more perfect than that at Oklahoma? So I think ideally, if the time was ever right for Coach Swinney to move on, he decided to for whatever reason, because he's not going to get fired. This program is in no jeopardy of falling off the map.
Nope.
I would think he would want it to be more along the lines of that situation. I don't know that he would be wanting to jump to another college job, and I just don't think he's an NFL guy. I just don't. But you know what? You mentioned it a moment ago, so it's worth continuing to mention. A few years back, he did say, look, if we ever got to this point where we're just paying players, I might as well just go coach in the NFL. So I don't think that he wants to go coach in the NFL. I think he's just fine. He's won national championships. Right now, I would call them the front runner to win another one this year. But that at least leads me to think that he's at least entertained. What would that be like?
Oh, I promise you he's at least thought about it. I mean, how would you not think about it? Mm-hmm. You've reached the top of the mountain at your profession. So you have to think, well, at least whether you come out and say it, in the back of your mind, you have to think, well, I could stay here and do this, or what if I did that? I mean, what if I tried something else? I mean, that's just human nature.
Sure.
So it comes down to really in his gut, does he aspire to be an NFL coach? Will he chase that dream if that dream exists, or will mounting frustrations with the changing college game push him in that direction? Will it be now or will it be later? If I had to bet right now will Dabo Swinney coach in the NFL? My answer would be yes. My answer is absolutely. I believe Dabo at some point will leave Clemson and go to the NFL, because I don't believe he would ever leave Clemson for another college program. So I do believe at some point Dabo will go try his hand in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't think there's nowhere else to leave for in college football. Your program, if you say who are the top 5 programs in the country, Clemson is in that order, depending on who you ask in some way, shape, or form. Clemson fans are going to tell you it's number 1. Bama fans are going to tell you it's number 2. Ohio State fans are probably going to tell you it's number 2 or 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that you can't go anywhere else and get any more than what you're getting. I mean, you've got the best facilities. You got the best contract. You got the best football team. I mean, there's nothing else you can get. So, the next challenge is the next level, but I don't see it. I really don't at all. I think that it's interesting. It's probably flattering, but it's not going to happen. And Jacksonville can just continue to be Jacksonville. You know who'd be very interested to ask, would they like that? Would be Perry Orth. He's a huge Jags guy. He's from Jacksonville.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'll have to ask him.
You know who I think will also jump? I think James Franklin at some point will leave Penn State for the NFL.
I do. Oh, absolutely. Oh, I don't disagree with that at all. I think James Franklin ultimately is an NFL guy.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's only a few, like, I think one day like Ryan Day could be an NFL guy. He just seems to have it.
Yeah,
I think Lincoln Riley's an NFL guy at some point. I really do.
Well, the NFL seems to think Lincoln Riley is an NFL guy because everyone wants him.
Yeah, I just think if he doesn't win a national championship in the next, say, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, I wouldn't be shocked to see Lincoln Riley make the move.
Yeah, and again, it comes down to, look, I've said this forever. I mean, whatever you're doing professionally in your life, you're not sitting there saying, I'm going to sit here and do the exact same thing for the next 20 years. This show will not look exactly the same next month as it is right now. Like, we're growing things. We're changing things. We're trying to continually evolve. Each individual is trying the same thing. So at some point, if the opportunity presents itself, whether you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, it's like, well, if I'm ever going to take a chance, if I'm ever going to see if I can actually pull this off, this is my chance to do it.
Good point. All right, real quick, college football news. Jamar Chase, top wide receiver in the SEC. Certainly LSU's number 1. He is foregoing 2020. He's going to enter the NFL draft. Auburn has been down 16 guys with virus-related issues, but they seem actually pretty optimistic that this is all going to resolve itself here pretty shortly. But they have taken a few days off of practice, so we'll keep our eyes on that. And in Memphis, one of the kids that maybe the guy that I loved to watch the most last year at the G5 level, running back Kenneth Gainwell is going to opt out of 2020 as well. He has had 4 family members pass due to COVID-19 or complications from COVID-19, I think is what I actually read. So he is actually going to and I also, I think, read that his father has said this is he feels comfortable. It's a decision that he can't be around his family. He's not going to even take the chance of contracting the virus and then dishing it and losing another family. He doesn't want to be responsible for it. So he said, I'm out.
That's the major issue anyway, right? Because by and large, these athletes who contract the virus will eventually recover. There could very well be issues. There could be complications. There could certainly be a death in the athletes. We don't know. The biggest fear is what happens if that virus gets in that locker room and then somehow because of that it gets to somebody who is more vulnerable. Mm-hmm. That has been and continues to be the major problem. That's why the community numbers are so important in all of this. So you can understand if you have family members, 4 of them. I mean, God, one of them's enough. None of them are. I mean, just knowing what's happening is enough for plenty of people to say, I'm not comfortable playing. 4 family members, absolutely. Add on top of that, your draft stock is not going to go higher this year. Doesn't matter how well you play.
That's true.
It's an easy decision.
Yeah, so he won't be playing. Memphis will be without their best player in 2020. DB's Cheesesteaks for dinner tonight. They deliver. DB'sCheesesteaks.com. It's the best cheesesteak in town. DB's Cheesesteaks, folks. Don't forget the boardwalk fries. Try my favorite, the buffalo chicken cheesesteak at DB's. DB's Cheesesteaks in Avondale, in West Ashley. Every delivery app available. They're on it. DB's Cheesesteaks, my favorite. It should be yours. It's the best. dbscheesesteaks.com. All right, everybody's favorite segment. What day is today? What day is today?
That's a good question.
It's a very interesting day.
It's the day I forgot to open my soundboard to even play the music is what day it is.
It's all right.
There we go.
The handy-dandy National Day calendar. Happy National Trail Mix Day.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the trail mix guy. I like trail mix.
How can you not be a trail mix guy?
Yeah.
Trail mix is it's peanuts and M&Ms.
Are you like me that you always dig for the M&Ms? Like if you get a handful and you only have like one M&M, you're like, nah, man, I got to get some more M&Ms.
I try to, but then I don't want to eat all the M&Ms and then have like a bowl of nuts left. So
Yeah,
I
you need a good
want
mixture.
the mix. Yeah, and the raisins are clutch.
Yeah.
And the sunflower seeds.
They go nice.
Yeah. The blend is it's like peanut butter and jelly. It blends. I mean, it's strong.
You'd almost say they match.
Yes.
Like they're a good match for each other.
Yes.
Well, it's National Matchmaker Day.
Oh, really?
So if you've got a friend who enjoys trail mix, match them up.
Well, then
Or
shout
doesn't.
out to Charleston Wine Pairings, good friend of the show, good friend of Nellwater Consulting. Charleston's #1 matchmaking, I believe.
Okay.
I know. It's been voted that way numerous times.
Big day for them.
Yeah.
All right. But most importantly, happy National South Carolina Day.
Oh, it is a good day for the state, isn't
Happy
it?
National South Carolina Day, folks. It is August the 31st. Remember this every single year. National South Carolina Day recognizes the Palmetto State and her unique landscapes, bold personalities, and long history.
That's exactly how it reads.
Yeah. Did you know that the Catawba Indians and the Cherokee Indians were some of the first to greet Spanish and French explorers in the 16th century?
Shout out Catawba wearing the shirt.
There you go. Really cool.
I didn't know that. No.
Really cool stuff. But happy National South Carolina Day. Little history lesson for all of you, named after, of course, King Charles I. And the colony later, of course, split into North Carolina and South Carolina back in 1710. And that is, of course, who we are today. The state, the shape has changed a little bit of both states, but that's when it separated between North Carolina and South Carolina.
Yeah.
So
now the Panthers are trying to just claim them both like they're the same thing.
That's right. Enjoy National South Carolina Day. Where else? At Patriots Point. PatriotsPoint.org. Come on, are you kidding me? South Carolina history at Patriots Point. PatriotsPoint.org. If you head to the website, you can purchase some tickets. You can take a look at the tours you could receive over at Patriots Point. Go check them out. It is the greatest museum we've got here in the state of South Carolina. The USS Laffey, the USS Clamagore, the Vietnam War exhibit, and, of course, the USS Yorktown that has painted the skyline of Charleston for quite some time right there at the tip of Mount Pleasant, at the foot of the bridge, the Ravenel Bridge, that is, in the East Cooper area. PatriotsPoint.org for much more information on tickets, educational opportunities, and a whole lot more. And, of course, they are the hosts of the Holy City Drive-In movie series, which right now is happening on Friday and Saturday nights. They've eliminated the Sundays, at least temporarily. But if you go to holycitydrivein.com, you can get your tickets and check out showtimes and much, much more. Coming up on Friday night, it's a great movie. If you've never seen it, perfect opportunity to do so. A Star is Born, starring Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, September 11th, what could be better than this? American Sniper. Oof. I mean, they're on a Bradley Cooper kick over there at Patriots Point.
That was a good movie, too.
Oh, great. Friday, I might actually try to do that and lead us right into some football that weekend. So thanks to our friends at Patriots Point.
The NCAA has done something smart.
All right.
They have trademarked the term battle in the bubble because of the success of bubbles being used for the NBA and NHL, and the idea that maybe in the NCAA tournaments and stuff there could be bubbles.
They don't miss an opportunity to make a buck.
There you go. They have trademarked battle in the bubble. The intent to use it on both as the names on tournaments, not just basketball tournaments, but also to use on clothing to sell merchandise.
Wow. NCAA. After the dough.
Nonprofit.
All right. Thanks to Mike Yuva and Wes Mitchell, and as always, to Darren Goldwater.
Thank you, man.
Thanks to all of you who watch and listen every day. We're back tomorrow at noon right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by